comes up. I don't know if I was really going to do a live demo today, but I can be prepared to, because I did test it out this morning, and I believe I've worked out all the kinks. I didn't get everything fixed I wanted to. But who's worked with AWS? Have you guys ever tickled any of the, have you guys ever used Boto 3 to manage AWS at all? Of course, this guy probably has. So have you guys only used the interface then? Have you used any like the cloud formation or anything like that? Okay, so I just want to know just to see how deep I need to go. Boto 3 is a great Python module. It seems to be mostly supported by Amazon themselves, or at least a lot of the developers there, and probably kids like Jacob that like to support things. He probably supports it too. Who knows? I'm just kidding. I don't know if Jacob does or not. However, it's a great little module. How I kind of see it is, and actually, how about this? First time through, so just some good and bad about it. It's a Python module that helps you easily manipulate the AWS API, essentially, with really simple and easy to use commands. I mean, it just abstracts a lot of the heavy lifting, so to speak, to have to wrap the API yourself. And it literally takes it, a lot of the guesswork and a lot of the issues you might come across with authentication and those kind of things kind of makes it really easy to get through and just get to coding and get to doing what you want to do with it. So it's really easy and fun, like most things in Python, I guess. Boto 3, I even looked just a couple of days ago just to make sure that my initial venture into this, and actually, this is why I wanted to do this one first. So at work, I always think of problem sets. Like every new issue coming my way is a new problem set to solve. Like may not have a most unique, it may be a solution that I could reuse multiple times, it may not be. And so in this problem, we have a business unit that wanted to go ahead and stamp a new process. And we have the third-party vendor that already has an AWS, and we were looking at the pricing between, okay, let's send the 6.7 terabytes of photos to our on-prem back-end storage as opposed to a bucket. And so they're kind of doing the cost equations between those two, like, hey, is a bucket worth it versus on-prem, maintain the hardware myself. It comes to find out we're probably going to do a hybrid of such. Even though the initial landing point will be S3, the real storage will be on-prem that will just be pulling from our S3. So it's a little bit weird. Who knows what it's really going to end up like, but this is my attempt to go ahead and kind of figure out, one, currently right now we're using AWS for PCI, and I don't want to mix this other business unit function with a PCI environment. The last thing you want to do is cross streams when it comes to that. And so whenever I wanted to create this, I need to make sure that logically, and I mean without a doubt, this, whatever I'm standing up, will not have any access to my PCI AWS-ness. And so that was my problem set. This is what I was trying to solve with this script. Luckily, good, perfect. I think this is the actual source of it too. Yeah. So I went ahead and, well, I mean, first thing you do, you kind of Google around, of course. And luckily, AWS already had like a account creation automatic end-to-end. So you could actually be like, oh yeah, let me just go ahead and throw in some variables or throw together this thing, and bam, it'll do all this account creation for you from the Boto 3, call the script, then call the stack, and then build out the infrastructure. And so they have it out there. The source is in the README. That will be on a GitHub. You guys can go out and get. I'll get you the link later or after here later. But and so that's really kind of nice. However, I don't usually. That's more of a default setting to me. I don't believe in default settings. Always replace the default settings. And so, and also the other good due diligent measure: look at your scripts before you run them. You know, so in looking at it, it didn't necessarily fulfill my requirements because I just needed an account with an S3 bucket. I needed an EC2 instance. I didn't even need a VPC, which is an EC2 instance is essentially a server. A VPC is what you can consider a network zone that you can attach and have in your account. So who you have an AWS account? So you probably don't even know that it's actually your own little account. You have an account number, and if you look at your user Amazon resource name, ARN, you'll see it a lot in code. ARN is like a big, it seems like a global reference to anything in Amazon. Our ARN structure is going to look the same, but our account numbers will be different. Maybe the last little part, depending on if it's like depending on the type of service it is and those kind of things. And so, all I needed was an S3 bucket that could be accessed from an ARN that I know the owner of. So he also was coming from an AWS account. AWS has a lot of built-in magic where they can actually do authentication based on just referencing an ARN and being like, oh yeah, and then make sure they're multi-factored as well. So like you can make it a condition in your policy to assume these privileges. And of course, I apologize, probably drifting off stream a little bit here, but it's definitely something I always try to do is the separation of duties and things. Oh boy, wouldn't it do that to me? Let me see if this will come up the right way. What is it? Okay. Oh, you little bastard. No. I'll just do the little button here. Oh, it's right here. Good golly geez. What am I doing to myself? Where's that picture? There's a pretty picture on here. Nope, there's no picture. And I did say that I didn't have it, didn't I? Oh, man. Aha! There it is. Okay. So whenever I'm saying organizations, whenever I'm saying accounts, literally in Amazon, you can create a structure such as this, where you essentially have multiple accounts under a master account. That master account is essentially your root account. From there, you create organizational units. So like if anybody's ever heard of Active Directory or kind of know the organizational unit structure in Active Directory, this is almost like an instance of that in Amazon. So you can say, hey, this OU has this account. Literally that account, that AWS account, is essentially the same login that your friend here has to his account. That's just one account. I can say, hey, he's now part of my organization, and he'll then inherit policies based on what organizational unit you have. There's the default service control policy, which is allow all admin access from root to that sub-account. So back to the gotchas with Boto. So once again, Boto is easy and fun. Takes a lot of the guesswork out of your mind to have to just start using the code. This was the only way I could find to kind of do it automatically without having to actually tickle the API or using SDK that there's no PowerShell SDK. I'm not a programmer, so I'm just the crufty scripter guy. And so I couldn't find anything else to use. And so that's the good thing about Boto. The bad, because I'm trying to make sure that whatever I build and create and run, use, do, whatever, this is gonna bother the crap out of me. I wanna make sure that it can be reusable, or at least fits in our deployment structure. Because I don't want it to be a one-off, like, oh yeah, that one crazy thing that Jimmy set up. What was he thinking? So I want to try to make sure it's deployed in a scalable manner. At least someone can pick up what I left off and be like, yeah, I could do that again. And I want to be reusable. Sadly, there's no easy way to reuse your Boto code unless you build that in. As far as like the checks and making sure, hey, if it's already there, this is what I expect to be there. Don't try to reinstall or anything. And it's easy to do in your scripts, but you just got to make sure you build them like that, and it's the way you expect it to run. The other thing is, because configuration management. What if something I pushed, hopefully by then I would have already vetted it before it ever hit prod. But what if I push something that I need to go ahead and roll back quickly from? Well, there's no really good, easy way to do that unless you do some other things or write it into your code again. To kind of do a quick rollback from what you just established. I mean, it might be, if you have that little rollback flag or whatever that parameter means, or you wrap a CloudFormation stack, which is that CloudFormation where you can actually deploy stacks and then roll back that way. There's no easy way to roll back the changes. So now let's go ahead and get into running the actual code itself. Like I said, Boto 3 takes a lot out of thinking for the authentication, but however, there's still some pre-configuring you're gonna have to do. In AWS, and I'll go ahead and just show you this because I think, oh man, no, I did need the internet. Good, we're almost ready. All right, let's see here. So if you go here, let's see if this works, perfect. You'll see where you're logged in at, and then you can go to My Security Credentials. You're gonna have to download, or at least this is one way to do it. I believe there's a few different ways you can actually authenticate using Boto, and there's a whole list of 6, I think I saw this morning, different ways. This is the way I like to use because one, I don't have to pass it in a command because command history can show up and then bam, I got my access key and my secret key out there. Whenever you assume a role, you'll have to have an access key, secret key, and a session key. But however, those can only live for 12 hours at tops, I think is the most, or 24 or whatever. But these keys can last a long time. These kind of access keys, but whenever you're assuming a role, but that's user versus role thing. So just make sure you protect this, and I don't like passing it in a command line because, like I said, the history, it can be seen. Taking it to a file is not necessarily the best way either, but sadly, the quickest way I could only find was if you go to your, not that one, this one, cool. If you go to, it's actually right here, under, well, if your username is user, users user.aws. In here, you have config backs, and this is essentially what you would see on a Linux box too. Your default home directory for all AWS configurations will be in your home directory in a dot folder, so, or hidden or whatever, that dot configuration folder. And so I'm not going to do that, but you're going to need at least a config and a credentials. I'm not going to cat the credentials. Oh, I did. Well, that's fine, because it'll be used. I did this last time. This is great. So just make sure you have that, what you just saw, in your credentials file, and run this command. You could be me in no time. And what else was going to say there? So make sure those are there. Once you have that, literally that's all you need to do to make sure that you are essentially installed or authenticated with Boto, like, Boto 3, sorry. And so if I do a client, actually, we'll stop guessing here. I'll go back big screen here. I think it was I just want to run one command in here, because we'll go over the code here pretty soon. So like right there, no, I want to list something. Describe, and man, I'm telling you, I'm so impressed with AWS documentation. They seem to have everything documented. Here, you guys need this little props. We're gonna go crazy. Nope, that's cursor. Bam, you'll see me now. Can you see that? Good. Organizations, I think that's all it is. Nope. We'll find it. There we go. It's without an S. Gotta have that syntax. But right there, all I did was I didn't do anything but put my credentials, valid credentials, in my credentials file, and made sure that my my default whatever. I guess with organizations, it's a global, so I don't necessarily have to have a region. But at least with my credentials, I can actually just go in there and just run commands without saying, hey, I want to authenticate. Hey, I want to go ahead and get to my account. This is literally, here's that 983 whatever 269. Let's see if my math is right. 983 269. So bam, there's me logging in, and all I had to do was just put it in that file, and bam, you can start literally running Boto commands like that, kind of understanding what you got going on in AWS. So now back to the problem set. I need to go ahead and create a, I wanted to use this model. I want to go ahead and make sure I'm using organizations. I didn't want to put it in the same OU that my PCI network was going to be, so I went ahead and made another branch, and I called it whatever that business unit was. And so now it's on a whole nother logical permission set that can't even get to my PCI network unless I put it at the root level to be able to be allowed to. And so therefore I can attest its security, or whatever you call it. But and so in trying to do that, it's like, okay, cool. Let me go ahead and try to set this up. Well, there's a few things that the account end-to-end creation didn't really have. It didn't check and see if there's an already organization there established. So if you don't have an organization, it would have, at least for what I was wanting to do, it wasn't there. And then, of course, from that, you had to kind of build out and make sure that the OU wasn't there. And I went ahead and there's still some to-dos. I don't know how many, but 5 at least, probably more once you go digging in, to kind of clean up some of this, like not make the OU the same as the AWS account, but in this case, it's going to do that. Also, it wasn't much added. What I did was on the repo, whenever you go out there, you can actually see the initial commit from the AWS automation, and then I just did the updates from what I'd used from that, so you can kind of see if you're curious. Now, the only problem with this one, I haven't tested the actual stack portion, but this will create, it'll validate the organization. If organization's not there, it'll create one. Then from there, it'll create a new OU and a new account under that organization. And so let's go ahead and see if James wasn't lying about saying this worked. So to run this script, I already have Python in my path, and so I don't have to worry about putting in my path or anything. I think it's right here. Yeah, that one. Account creator. And so we're just going to do Python. Actually, here, take the guesswork out of it. You would. Let me just make sure I got these args right. Cool. So Python, then you, of course, call the script, that one. And then account, email. So every account that you set up has to have an email address that they can tie to. And so whenever you delete an account, so if you're doing this kind of testing, make sure it's not an address you may want to use in AWS. So make a dummy address, because you don't ever have to validate it to even delete the account. So just FYI, so like dummy address at, and just, I don't know, send it to a domain you may own. Might be good. But even then, it doesn't matter, because, well, maybe it does. Someone might get that and set up the account for you. So just make sure it's a domain you own. So then also you need the account name. I believe this is the minimum you need to go ahead and get started. And this will be a Yahoo account for whatever reason. I know it's unique. I just saw something wrong with my matching earlier this morning. So that's required, And that's it. Of course, there's some more to-dos, but we're going to go and run this. You'll kind of see that it's going to create the account, look for the organization. If it's there, hey, it's going to say, hey, it's already there. There it is. If there's a root, they need to go ahead and establish where's the root of the organization is, so we can actually put it under that. Then here, it's actually setting up the account because it was not found. Because I tried to make that check to where, hey, don't set up this account again. Like, I don't need more of these accounts. And I don't even know what would happen if the same email was tied to 2 different accounts in the same organization. But so unknowns there. You guys can test that out if you want. What else do I want to talk about? Yeah, so the one thing I haven't done, so the end-to-end through this script, because we're using Ansible and Jenkins for most of our configuration of the environment. Because of that, I did not even try to test the stack in this, because I'm trying to run those with my Ansible and my Jenkins, essentially configuration management tools. And therefore, I didn't even test out that other portion. I just went ahead and went to those tools to go ahead and create out the S3 bucket with the permissions and those kind of things. And there's the command, test command. So that's what it would look like. And I think here's the GitHub. Somewhere out there in the clouds. This guy doesn't do much. He's a slacker. Okay, here we go. Perfect. There's my GitHub, and let's see if the account was done. Look at that. So now I got looks like another account into OU something. That's, oh, great. Let's see what that made over here. So we're going to go back over here to our AWS organizations under management and governance. And then bam, there's our Yahoo account with that dummy address. And it's got a new account ID and all that good stuff. This guy still is not deleted. I deleted him like a month ago. But yeah, any questions? Yeah. MPCAP drivers installed, huh? Is it a license thing that I need to? Man, so MPCAP, I use it. It came with my Wireshark, and this is. I like to tell people if there's no PCAP, it didn't happen. So it's the ground truth for me, and I use it extensively, I guess, and even troubleshooting. Yeah, so that's what that. What do you use it for? Actually, so the question was, why do you have NPCAP? I guess it's a new licensed driver that's supported by. Who's the guys that do Nmap? I think they're the same people that do that one.
Yeah.
NPCAP. Here, I'll actually do a search for it.
I use it just for the same thing for Wireshark, for like I can specifying TCP port, protocol type, just post data or line text. Just there's a million different ways to debug your code if you look at it on a packet level.
Way to go! That's awesome. I'm actually pretty impressed. That's a good way to do it too, especially with web. I would imagine.
Right.
I always thought Fiddler was the go-to for a lot of web.
Burp Suite is the.
Oh, way to go, dude. Yes, that would be another great one. Probably more flexible. Are you used to Java a lot, or is that?
No, I did a penetration testing, a lot of that stuff.
Okay, so yeah, he said Burp Suite's another one that he uses for, I guess you have the mic there too, to look at those kind of things. So that's actually really neat, man. Yeah, anything you can use to get you closer to what's going on in the background, because there's so much abstracted, it feels like nowadays.
Just more layers of the onion you can take a look at.
And you kind of have to get that deep every once in a while, especially with a lot of this. And I'll tell you right now, Windows is feeling more and more open source every day. Right. I'm having more and more issues just getting I'm not in developer mode. Like I have enough problems just with production mode.
And
like,
with Wireshark, you can just filter just JSON data and have it be agnostic to port type or anything else. You can just literally just see any JSON data coming over your adapter.
Yes.
So it's like it's real just that kind of stuff. So if you have a method that's expecting JSON object and it's not getting parsed through and you don't have error reporting, you can see in the packet level that it's not structured right.
So and you're using Wireshark for that?
Yes.
Wow. Check out Fiddler.
Okay.
Because honestly, especially if it's web-based, that right there will get you to that packet faster. And you only have to think about packets. You just think about HTTP sessions.
Right.
Or whatever. You know what I mean? You're at that level, essentially. And it abstracts. And you can even take Wireshark PCAP and put it into your Fiddler. And then like look at all the sessions and things that happened. Right. Of course, for like Wireshark, you have to have that privileged location on the network to be able to see.
And you can repeat requests as well that are made with Fiddler. So if you see a request come in, you can just repeat it instead of having to say go through your UI. Like,
are you using Burp for the repeat request?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If Fiddler does that same thing where you can actually craft or even take one in that from a previous session and then start modding it up.
Because we have a process where we have to go through like 20 minutes of a survey entry to submit that data. So it'd be helpful to just go through that process and we could just resubmit the PCAP, over the adapter.
That's cool. That's really cool. Any other questions? Well, cool. Well, thank you all so much for your time.